Hi there. In today's video, I'm going to finally integrate my terminal ChatGPT CodeInterpreter into my ChatWTF ChatGPT Clone project. Now, this is the fourth video where I say that in the beginning, but today is the day that I'm actually going to do it. So today I already filmed a video where I intended to do this, but I still had to fight with the hallucinations of ChatGPT in that video for more than an hour. So basically what I had to do is I had to parse the code from a malformed JSON response from ChatGPT. So normally ChatGPT should call this function and pass in the actual code to run. But sometimes it passes an invalid JSON response through the API, in which case I will send the malformed JSON as the first argument. Now, the reason why I do this is that sometimes ChatGPT doesn't even format the response in the JSON format it's supposed to, and it just has the code as a string to the argument. So then I pass the code in. But I have to parse sometimes the code from the malformed JSON response. And this happens at least with GPT 3.5. Also, I had to add this print statement into the last line of the Python code, because normally ChatGPT responds with a code that has some variable as the last line, and it's supposed to read that variable, but I'm not sure how to run the Python code in such a way that it will print out the last line, because this is not actually using the interactive Python interpreter that would in fact print out a variable if you just type it in. So I have to wrap the last line in the print statement if it is not already. And I do say in the system message to do this, but it doesn't always do it. Moreover, I had to create this alias function called Python code, because for some reason, sometimes ChatGPT hallucinated a function called python.code. And there are multiple problems with this. First of all, dot is not allowed as the function name in the API, so it will already give an exception. So I had to add for that here this preg replace statement, so we remove all the unallowed characters from the function name that ChatGPT returns. I also had to do a bunch of changes to the system message, and then I had to add a read file contents function because I wanted the interpreter to be able to do this. So if I run this interpreter here and I say this, make a graph of the yearly hurricanes from hurricanes.csv. And this is a file that I have here. So in that file, we have this kind of data. So we have months here, and we have the averages, and then we have the years here, and then here we have the data for every year. So now, if I say, make a graph of the yearly hurricanes from hurricanes.csv, it will read the lines from hurricanes.csv, and it is going to print out the code, which I changed the formatting of, so it didn't quite fit on the screen. And this is the code that it wants to run. So it imports matplotlib and pandas, and then it reads the data. Now, it actually wrote this data in the Python code, which is not really what I want because it might make some hallucinations here. But anyway, let's see if it works. It loads it into a data frame, and then it does some plotting and something, and finally saves it into a file. So let's see if we say, yes, we want to run this code, what happened? Well, it will say, I have created a graph of the yearly hurricanes from the hurricanes.csv file. And if I go here, then we in fact have a yearly hurricanes.png. And look at this graph. Here we have all the months, and here we have all the years, and we have a graph of them. So apparently, from August to September, we have the most hurricanes. Now, I'm not sure if this is any real data from anywhere, but it looks like it should. So now, how do we integrate this into my ChatWTF chatbot? Well, in the ChatWTF project, we have a file called message.php. And here, somewhere, we are initializing the ChatGPT library. So now we should just pass in the system message and the functions to this ChatGPT object. So let's do that. let's go to our interpreter and let's set all of these things there. So I'll put them right here. And the model, I believe I set it somewhere else already, so I don't have to do it here. I'm setting it down here. So we only do that. And then, of course, we need to move the functions in there too. So let's move the actual functions. So I need the Python code function, which is the alias for just a Python function. And I also need read file contents, and I need get file name, which just adds the data slash into the beginning of the file name, because ChatGPT doesn't always do that. And we need the run Python code. We don't need the input, but I will remove it later. And I guess we need the get Python command function, which just gets the command from either a command line argument or the operating system. Because at least in my experience, on Windows you have to call Python, but on Linux you can call Python 3. So we are going to copy all of these things. And for now, I'm just going to slap them in here. And then I'm going to refactor later. And I'm going to convert this echo into a error log. And I'm going to do the same for the other echoes here. Now, here, in fact, we are asking the user if they want to run the code. But we can, of course, do it here like this. So for now, I will just remove this and let ChatGPT run whatever code it wants. And we have to figure out some sort of sandbox system for this. But for now, we actually don't need to do this formatting either, because we are not showing anything here. But I still need to add the print statement here as the end. So let's just remove this altogether. And let's just say rows row count -1. So if the last row does not contain print, then we are going to set the last row to contain print. And we are going to say that the code is going to equal implode with the space, with the new line, the code, rows. And actually we call it code rows, which is a very stupid name for lines of code. So I will say lines. And this is going to be lines. And we don't have styled code. We still need this one. And this echo will be an error log. And what else? So we get the code, we trim the code, we fix the hallucinations, and then we split the code by the lines, and we get the row count just to get this index. And we add the print statement to the last row if it doesn't have it, and then we're going to reconstruct the code from the lines. And then we're going to run it and pass it to chat. Great. So then we have read file contents, and this again, I will put error log. And that should be fine. And get file name is from data. And for now, that is fine as well. We have to figure out where the data will actually be ultimately. And we don't need the input function. And this should be fine. Run Python code. And we don't have this Python command constant. So I will actually just say if isset settings Python command, then we are going to return that. And I should ideally pass in the settings here, but since this is called in run Python code, and run Python code is called from ChatGPT, so I can't really pass it here. So I'll just get the settings here again. So, I mean, I guess I could make it global, but that's not a good idea either. So I'll just do this. I'll get it from here again. I don't think it's gonna slow it down that much. And this is not command line argument, this is for the settings. So now we should be able to run some Python code. But we do not have a way in our front end to show these function calls and function results. So we have to figure out a way to do that. Because now when we run the Python code and we get a response, then down here, when we stream the response, first of all, we can't stream function calls. So we have to change this to response, which I have to do stream if function calls are not enabled. But right now we are just going to respond normally. But now we don't always get content from this because this returns the message. But it might now have a function call, and it might have a role function. So we have to do this. We call this the response message. And in fact, I can do this. So if I say response text and just have it as the content, and I don't pass in this raw function response into this response function, then it will actually automatically, if it gets a function call, it will pass the response back to ChatGPT and then get another response, which will be an actual response. So it will loop through until it gets a regular response. If it gets a function call, it always passes the function call back until it gets a regular message. So we can actually do this, and this should work. But of course, we don't see the code what ChatGPT wrote. And of course, we don't see the file that it created. But first, let's create that data folder. So I will create a new folder, not in there. Data. And hopefully it is now in the right place. I have to figure out where we are now relative to this folder. But let's try it. So if I go here and I say, create a line chart of the first 15 prime numbers, and we do this, then we get an error. So let's see what is the error. Invalid request. I have to update my API key. So let's try again. Create a line chart of the first 15 prime numbers. And let's see what will happen. So we got stuck here for some reason. We actually got a title here already, which should happen only after we get the message. So I wonder what happened here. Actually, in the data folder, we do have a chart with the first 15 prime numbers. So it did it, but I wonder what went wrong. Let's see the error log. Is there something here? No. The reason is again that we are streaming the response, but we are not streaming now. So we should respond in the following manner. We should say echo data, and then we should have JSON encode content is going to be response text. And we should have 2 new lines, I believe. Where do we have data? Yes. And then that's it. We have to flush as well. So if you do this, and let's try this again. Create a line chart of the first 20 prime numbers. And we are going to do something, hopefully. And now we got a response. And we actually have a link to line chart, but it is to sandbox/data/line chart. So we have to replace this with the actual link to the file. But it actually works. So that's pretty cool. So if we go here, we actually have the line chart, and this has the first 20 prime numbers. Now, let's actually fix that link. So let's create some function to parse the response. Let's do response text equals parse ChatGPT response, and we pass in the response text. Now, I'm not sure if we should do it on the server or the client, but let's do it on the server, since I'm more familiar with PHP than JavaScript. And again, I'll just slap it here and figure out later where to put this function. So function parse ChatGPT response. So this will take the string of the response and it will return a string. And what will we do? Well, I think we'll just reject this. So let's say response equals preg replace. And how do we do this? The link was something like sandbox/data and something. And we have to, let's actually use this character for the beginning and the end. And if we get this, we are going to replace it with sandbox. No, we don't have any sandbox. We just have data slash. No slash because, well, actually, yeah, let's do, if we have sandbox/data/, we will just call it data/. And we will replace in the response. And we don't need project for this. We just need str replace. So we don't need this crap over here. Although we might want to include like the actual link. If it's a link, then we replace it. Maybe that is enough. And we're also going to say /mnt/data. because sometimes it does this. So this also going to be data. And I think we can make this like an array, and then we can have just one string here as the replacement. So we can actually move this one here as well. And I believe there was something else, was there? Let's say if it is sandbox data slash, then again, it's going to be data slash. And we are going to return the response. And I should add some color to the links because this is the default color. It looks very ugly. So what color should we have? White is almost even good, but we could use like green, orange, red, maybe green. Let's go with a very nice lime green for now. So we have our style, and we are going to just say that a link a visited is color. And I guess I'm using these vars, so I say var link color. And I will set it here. Link color is going to be this one. Now, I in fact don't want to do it here because, yeah, maybe it's better to do this in client side, because now this will only be shown on the first time we send the message. If we open this now, then we are not changing the link. But if we create a new one, if we say create a sample of a bell curve, and we create a sample of a bell curve, and we can click here, but it still doesn't work, which is kind of interesting and disappointing. I'll do this on the client side. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to remove it from here. And in our JavaScript, when we add message or update message, in fact, we have to format the message. We actually have a function for formatting the message. So we have convert markdown. So I will add it actually in here. So what I will do is I will say that the text equals convert links. Let's make this function and let's create it here. Function convert links. And this is the text, and we're going to do this, but in JavaScript. So we're going to say that text dot replace, and this has to in fact be regex, I believe. Well, it doesn't have to be regex. So we just do this. And we replace it with data slash. I'm not sure if I can give an array to that, so I'm just going to make these separate. And of course, I have to set the text that, and I will return text. Let's see if that works. Now the good thing is that we can just refresh and the same thing should work, but it doesn't. So why? Sandbox slash data. Sorry, this shouldn't, of course, end because it doesn't end there. And this shouldn't end either. So that was the problem originally as well. But now we're doing it on the client side, and now we have a link that opens a bell curve. So now it works. Now I probably want it to open in a new window. So how do I do that? So this one we have to do after we convert the markdown. So we should say formatted message equals formatted message dot replace. And what are we going to replace? We're going to replace a ref equals with a target is blank and href equals. That should work, because if we have links like in the actual code output that ChatGPT shows, then these should be like this. So technically this should work. Let's see if it works. So if we go back here and we go back and refresh and we click, then we open it in a new tab. So that is great. And I guess this one works as well now because we are doing it on client side, so it works every time. So that's pretty nice. But we would really want to see what ChatGPT did. Just like in actual ChatGPT, it will show you what it is doing. Now, in fact, at first it hides it. It does show the image and then the text, what it did. So this is the last response. So it's basically what we are doing here. This is the final response, which ChatGPT also shows, but then it shows the work as well. And it shows the image. That is interesting. So actually, I wonder, is the image in Markdown? If I copy this message, what will happen? No, it doesn't copy that. But technically, we could make like an image. How do you make an image in Markdown? I'm not actually sure. How to make an image in Markdown. Inserting the image name inside the square brackets and image link URL. But is that like, that's going to be a link. So there is no like actual image that you can do, but we could tell it that there is. So what if in our system message we say, you can include images in your response with the format, and let's do something like img data / image.jpg. Then we could parse this and just let ChatGPT put the image where it wants. Let's see if this works. Now, I'm not actually sure what will happen if you put this in Markdown. Let's see. Create a bar chart of the first 10 prime numbers. So the idea is that now it would respond with the actual image and then some text. But I'm not sure if it will actually figure out to do that. And it's not really perhaps a good way of doing it. I should really have a function call that ChatGPT can run that will give the image. But now we are stuck somewhere for some reason. Let's see what is happening. Accepted, so we are running something. So maybe the ChatGPT API is just stuck, which is often does. What is this one? This one is the line chart, so this is the old one. Yeah, this is really annoying about the ChatGPT API. It often gets stuck unless it created some Python code that will run forever. Let's actually see uptime. Load average is pretty high, but I am screen recording. Okay, now we closed and we created the title, and there was an error in the request. So did we actually get an error? We did not, because we are like suppressing the error and giving our own error. So let's try this again. And hopefully this time it will actually do it. Okay, and it actually opened it. So this is even better than showing an image on the website. But if I close this now, it should close the connection and then it should say, here is the bar chart. And actually, it did what we asked. So if I copy this message, then here we are going to have, okay, so this is not really what I meant. I wonder if showdown.js has the possibility to add images. Images, there is images. The only difference in syntax for images is the leading exclamation mark. Okay, so I just have to do that. So that's great. So I will change my system message to say that you can include images in your response with the format, and I will just say bang and the URL and sorry, well, yes. Okay, this is the alt text. So image name and the URL. Let's see if that will work. So create a new chat and create a pie chart of a healthy diet, protein, carbs, and fats. And we actually wrote the code. Okay, run the code. Oh, wait a minute. I actually saw that there was a link. So it provided me with the code and then a link to the actual thing. So it created it already. So if I click this, then we have it here already. So, okay, I should have read what it said. So it says, I have created the pie chart and saved it as healthy diet pie chart in the data directory. So if I open it, it's here. So now it works. So let's try something else again. Let's do this. Let's go to Unsplash and let's copy some images here. Let's copy the image address of this and say, can I add a new line? Yes. Make a combined image of these two images where they are side by side with no gaps. And I'll paste in this one, and I will copy this address as well, and I'll paste it here, and I will do it. And for some reason we got a scroll bar down here. And here is the combined image you requested. And my message box doesn't resize after we send the message, so we have to fix that, but it shows the actual code now. Interesting that it now shows the code. Sometimes it does it and sometimes it doesn't. So let's open it, and it did not work for some reason. And the reason is that it didn't actually use the URLs. So there are some bugs to fix here. Let's try with GPT-4. So if I go to my settings and I set the model to be GPT-4, and actually the real code interpreter only uses GPT-4. So that's probably the reason why, because GPT 3.5 doesn't do such a good job. But now we are using GPT-4, although it says here GPT 3.5 because I haven't implemented that feature to actually change the model yet. But let's see if GPT-4 can do it. Now, this is again taking a very long time, so I wonder what is going on. So it would be really nice to get like the streaming for the function calls as well. But it kind of is a difficult problem. How do you stream a function call? How do you respond with a partial function? It's very difficult. So it's no wonder that they haven't done that yet. But the actual code interpreter does stream the response, so there's some way of doing it. Probably it's just a difficult problem for an API that is publicly available. It's hard to use, but you can do it, of course. Okay, I am giving up on this. I am going to copy this and I will try to shut down the server, and I will open the server again. And let's try a new chat, which for some reason is stuck already. What is happening? Let me refresh this page first and then start it over and new chat, and let's do this again. Maybe I need to tell it separately that it can also read URLs. Okay, and we got an error, and I don't know what the error was. So let's go back to 3.5 Turbo, and let's add here. You can also use Python code to download files or images from URLs. And let's try it again. Now, in fact, in the first video, I already did this, so it should be able to do this. But I'm not sure if all of my additions to the system message have screwed it up somehow. But now we in fact got a very large image with both of them combined, and it put it here. Now we should set some sort of CSS for images. So let's do IMG with 100% or max width. And if we then refresh and we open this, then here we have the image. That is great. And we also have a link to it, and we can open it. And here it is. They're side by side, and there's no gaps. So that is pretty nice. So I'm going to end today's video here. I'll probably make some tweaks off camera to this project, so maybe I can select from here this code interpreter and maybe the GPT-4. But now I have filmed already 2 videos and I'm getting tired, so I'm going to go for a coffee. So thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe and tell me in the comments what should I add next to ChatWTF. And give it a star on GitHub. You can find the link in the description and try it out yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.